Follow Paddy Power on Snapchat. The username is @ThePaddyPower, and we promise there won't be any boring snaps about gigs, the weather, or the gym.
Hello and welcome to this Cheltenham ante-postcast. I'm Maddie Plough, joined in the studio by Dave Orton. Dave, we're both in green again, rocking the green. We've also got Paul Keeley in place of Tom Siegel, who's not here, he's off on his jollies, and Darren Hughes from Paddy Power as well. This week we're covering the Triumph Hurdle and the JLT Novices Chase. Two really exciting races, but they're sort of, the form of them is happening a bit weird, isn't it, Dave?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess, well, in the JCB, we've obviously got a clear market leader, and it looks like that could even get even shorter if we have a few defections. And if that's the case, he'd be standing out, wouldn't he, Sir Eric? So, and with the JLT, it's a case of who's going to turn up, really.
Yeah.
But I think we're getting a bit of a clearer idea about that now.
Yeah, we are. Very much sort of favourites in the top end of the market. It seems like they're both in two halves a little bit. Darren, we'll go over to you. And some news on the non-runner no bets from Paddy's you have.
Yeah, that's right, Maddie. So as of last Friday, we went non-runner no bet on every race at the Cheltenham Festival for 2019. So big news in the industry. Yep,
fabulous. Could be very, very helpful in the coming weeks. Now, we'll get cracking with the JCB Triumph Hurdle. Then Sir Eric, a strong favourite after winning the Spring Juvenile Hurdle. Darren.
Yeah, that's right. He's our 11-to-8 favourite at the moment. Second favourite is his stablemate Fakir Duderis. Third favourite is also his stablemate Band of Outlaws at 10s. Pick Dorothy then for Paul Nicholls is 10-to-1. Tiger Tap Tap is 11s. Gardens of Babylon is 12s. Torpedo is 12s, and we are 14s bar.
Excellent. Now, Keels, I'll go over to you first. What do you think of Sir Eric? Do you think he's the right price now, given what he did at the Dublin Racing Festival?
I'm not 100% sure about the right price. He was obviously the right favourite. I mean, he did look very, very good, didn't he? But, you know, the way I looked at it, if you wanted to devise a race to make a horse that was as good as he was on the flat look like a superstar, then you'd have done that one at Leopardstown, because they just gave him in such an easy time. I mean, he went so slow, you wouldn't believe. You know, the other 2-mile race on the card, if you'd have run it at the same time, the winner of that would have been 100 yards clear of Sir Eric going to the second last. And it just seemed to me that he was just given a freebie. Now, on his debut, he didn't look like he could jump particularly well, and obviously he didn't have that jump input under pressure, and the ground was fast, etc. You know, but still, he's a horse that ran Stradivarius to less than 3 lengths at Ascot, so you can't really argue with his latent ability, and he's obviously got that ability, and you have to be afraid of him. Plus the fact that, you know, the Cheltenham trial winner Fakir Duderis has been bought by JP McManus, and was probably, well, almost certain you'd have thought go for the Supreme now.
Yeah, indeed. Joseph O'Brien, he holds the key to, well, quite a few races. You'd think the Martin Pipe, plenty of these would cross over into that.
Yes.
What do you think?
We've seen some messy races over there in Ireland, haven't we? I think on that whole weekend that Paul's alluding to, there were the big hurdle, for example. It was, you know, everything was in with a chance 3 out. He did get an easy lead, but didn't he ping that last? He absolutely flew that, and he was stretching away. Listen, he's bred to be a monster, isn't he? And he could just be the best horse from the flat to go hurdling in some time. He reminds you a bit of Defy Desoy, I suppose, in that we've got a clear one.
Yeah.
It's a case of what's going to turn up against him. Fakir Duderis, Paul's right. He's surely got to go for the Supreme, hasn't he? I mean, JT's got Champagne Platinum or whatever it is for that. I think the form of which is a little bit questionable. He's a 16-to-1 shot. Otherwise, he's not got a shot in the race. He did that, of course, with Binocular as a 4-year-old, who obviously came up just short, but we know how good he was.
Yeah, indeed. Sir Eric, it's usually the sort of top trial in Ireland, Darren. Sort of, can you see him beaten? Is he one of the real Irish bankers?
He's the sexiest profile of anything else in the race, I think. He was obviously a top-class flat horse, and it's interesting, actually, he's not been gelded, so I don't know, did they intend to send him to stud, or did they intend to send him back on the flat? It's hard to say. On paper, he's the right favourite, but for me, he's just way too short. Like, I agree 100% with Paul. He had the run of the race that day in Leopardstown. His jumping did definitely improve and everything else, but as Paul said, he had the run of it, and if Anthem was ever going to make him look unbelievable, it was the run he had at that race. I suppose the positives are he jumps well, and the new course at Cheltenham as a stamina test will suit him, but just not for me at the price, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know Joseph O'Brien said, well, we didn't really have time to geld him. If we would have, you know, had that little bit more time, but he says his attitude's perfectly fine and everything else like that.
If there is a hole to pick in him, I think we've, you know, just about covered it. Paul's right. Go back and look at that Leopardstown maiden. when he was held up a bit more, he didn't jump well at all.
Yeah.
So that would be
That'd be
maybe
the big
of
concern,
some
wouldn't it?
concern if you're going in. I mean, what sort of price can he get to if if and when Fakir defects?
Yeah.
He could go really short, couldn't he?
Yeah, just he narrowly beat Tiger Tap Tap that day, who we'll re-mention just a bit further down. But Fakir Dudery, obviously won at Cheltenham, has been bought by JP McManus, as Keels said. He looked impressive there. Will he run or will he go to the Supreme? What do you think, Keels? Do you think they sort of they're going to split them up?
I think he's pretty certain to go to Supreme. You have to bear in mind that JP McManus also has Gardens of Babylon, who I think is the each way value in the Triumph, by the way. But he also has that one in there, and he doesn't have a strong hand, as David just mentioned, for the Supreme. Now, Fakir Dudery ran to a Racing Post rating of 147. That makes him much better going into the race than any other horse who ran in the Supreme as a 4-year-old since All the While won it in 1999. I know people might blink a bit and say, hang on a minute, how could you be better than Binocular? But Binocular had only run to 138 going into the race, and Fakir Dudery's run to 147. You give him the £8 allowance, he's actually way clear on Racing Post ratings for the Supreme. Obviously, we've got horses that are still lightly raced and haven't run. We've got a Betfair Hurdle to run, which we don't know whether that's going to be run. But at the moment, if Fakir Dudery went there, he would be top rated by quite some way on Racing Post ratings for the Supreme. I'd imagine that is where we go. Yeah,
and Fine Brunelli and Adjali, the two horses he beat at Cheltenham, do you think that's strong form? I'm not so sure, but you can't argue with the way he did it, Keels.
Well, I mean, how strong does it have to be when you win by 11 lengths? I think all the British horses we've seen are rubbish. You know, whoever's going to win the Triumph is Irish, unless it's trained by Paul Nicholls and hasn't run in Britain yet, and that's Pic D'Orhy, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. But you know, that's the point. You know, I mean, the British horses aren't so good. From what we've seen, I don't think anything has excited anybody over here, even before the Irish horses started doing what they were doing. So. Yeah, I would say that I would say that Joseph O'Brien will win. Will almost certainly win the Triumph Hurdle. Yeah, it's a case of who with.
Yeah, and Darren, I know you like taking a snipe at us English. I mean, what's your opinion on Fakir Dudery?
He's achieved comfortably the most out of any other horse in this field, as far as I'm concerned. Agree with Paul. Yeah, look, he was so impressive the last day, and the fact that he beat one of Joseph's, I'd say that means they have a good handle on the form. I assume all this entire conversation is academic, because I reckon he will end up going to the Supreme, and it would probably actually be a hint towards Sir Eric's chances if they pass up going to the Triumph with this lad and leave the Triumph to Sir Eric, if that makes sense, because I think this would be a penalty kick for Fakir Dudery if he showed up.
Okay, that's really interesting.
I have to say that obviously they went to the Triumph with Binocular a few years ago because they had a short price favourite in the Triumph, and that one got beat. That was Franchuk, got beat by Celestial Halo, so it doesn't always work.
Yeah, definitely
absolutely
doesn't.
Not, no.
Okay, we'll move on then to Band of Outlaws. Now, he won at Nace over the weekend. Really, really impressive. I'm not sure they were wanting him to be quite that impressive though, Dave.
He looked like one more run in the Fred Vinter, I suppose, if you're looking at it like that. He was quite interesting for the spring because he ticked a lot of boxes, being decent on the flat and liking the ground, and he was quite impressive when he won at Limerick, wasn't he? We've given him a Racing Post rating of 129 for that at the weekend on Saturday, and straight away JJ Sleving, who rode him, was off his back, and he said basically Aintree. It just came out. Maybe we'll keep him for Aintree, we don't know. So I thought that was a telling line. What
chance would you give him if he turned up in the Triumph?
It depends what the ground would be, I suppose. If they went hammer and tongs, would he pick up the pieces? If they went slow, we know he can sprint. It's all about getting up the hill. He's a 7 furlong mile horse, but he's already shown that he stays well. So I don't really know what to do with him.
Yeah, okay, Keels, it was a bit of a messy race. He beat the Fav Canetho, but he did it impressively.
Yeah, he does look a speed horse to me. I mean, you would have thought Aintree would suit better. I mean, he's by fast company. You know, if we get a normal Triumph, I don't know what a normal Triumph is now, to be honest, but if you get one that's reasonably strongly run, it is quite a stamina test, isn't it? And that would make you wonder. I mean, that was a steadily run race, and he's got a turn of foot, hasn't he? So he might well be more suited to Aintree.
And Darren?
Yeah, funny old horse. I don't know if any of you seen his hurdling debut down in Cork. I have never seen a horse jump worse, in my entire life. Please go back and watch this. The funniest thing I've ever seen. He's still only beaten a length, and he's improved a ton since then. This, for me, wouldn't be the race for him, and Cheltenham, especially the new course, wouldn't be his bag either, I wouldn't say, and I'd be inclined to leave him off till entry.
Okay, one more mention briefly, because we've not actually seen him in this country yet, is Pic D'Orhy. Decent in France. Paul Nicholls, by all accounts, is pretty impressed with him. I think he said he's going to go straight there now, so we won't see him until the day. But Darren, you've seen a lot of support from him recent days.
Yeah, we have an interesting few quid, and from some very respected sources. I don't know a whole pile about him now myself. Like, might shock your listeners, but I'm not a particularly cultured fella, and I know about as much about the French form book as I do about French wine, which is sweet damn all. I have to respect the source, I guess, and I imagine he'll make his debut in the Adonis, and we'll know a lot more about him after that. But I don't know. I couldn't tell anyone to go and take tens about a yoke we haven't seen.
Keels, I'm sure you could tell Darren a lot more about some French wine. You could get him up to speed, couldn't you?
I don't know anything about wine other than how quick I can drink it. That's about it, really.
When you drink it that quick, you don't tend to look at a label, Keels.
Exactly. I don't even tend to taste it.
You were telling me you were the white wine connoisseur the other day.
I'm becoming very partial to it. But it doesn't mean I know anything about it. I'm not that much of a fraud. Pic D'Orhy's very interesting. I didn't realise he was going to go straight there. Obviously, he's run 6 times over hurdles, never been out of the first 2. The fall in his form figures was actually the chase. He has been running in the best races in France, as far as we can tell. But what can we tell about him? What we probably know is this is building up into a fairly decent triumph, I think. There are horses of interest other than Sir Eric. I think Gardens of Babylon looks like an out-and-out stayer to me, and I thought he did really, really well to finish second to Sir Eric because he just got outpaced. They didn't go the pace he wants. Another furlong, a much stronger run race, and I guarantee you he'll be closer to Sir Eric than he was last time, and he will not be out of the frame because, like I said, the English are rubbish, and there isn't that much else in there. So he's the one for me. He's each way, 16-1, I think. I think that's a crazy price. Okay. I just think, 4 of the last 6 winners have come out of that spring juvenile hurdle. 3 of the last 4 reversed form with the winner, and the first 2 in the race were first 2 in the Triumph last year. Wouldn't surprise me if that happened again. Okay.
Keel's not messing around there, skipping straight to his selection. Dave, Pic D'Orhy, any quick thoughts on him? Would it worry you with a horse going straight to the Triumph?
Like Fakir, he's run over fences, and he's got loads of experience. I'm surprised to hear that Nicholls said that he was going straight there. You'd thought the Adonis might have been the port of call. It's all very soft ground.
Maybe he will.
It's just hard to know, isn't it? But there's obviously, Nicholls has been a master with these ex-French sorts. Be it a Fred Winter or a Triumph, I guess, Zarkando and the likes. I don't know really what to do with him, so I couldn't be with him at all. Gardens of Babylon is interesting, Kills, isn't he? Because if you go back to that maiden on the flat at Leopardstown last April, he was actually favourite odds on to beat Sir Eric, and he was beaten a couple of lengths by them. That was on really bad ground. He's by Camelot. He comes from the same selection line as Sir Eric. He wasn't at all suited by the way it was run. You have to think the hill's going to be right up his street. So I can absolutely see that.
Yeah, I'm really keen on Gardens of Babylon as well. Darren, we'll go back over to you. Some others on the list: Tiger Tap Tap nearly beat Sir Eric on his first run over hurdles. Torpilio, he's been emphatic in 2 runs so far, but what's he beaten? Course Sublime, I know a few people like him, as well as Carlo Briaghi, and some more after that. What do you reckon?
Yeah, so just touching a couple of those there. Tiger Tap Tap, for me, he's exposed as not good enough to beat Sir Eric at this stage. And if I'm opposing Sir Eric, I have to oppose Tiger Tap Tap. I don't see how he can possibly overturn the form. For me, anyway, and I think he's a poor price to do so. Carlo Briaghi, I know for a fact they thought this lad was a proper machine on the flat. Like, they thought this was going to be their Irish Derby horse. Now, it just didn't work out. He disappointed massively one evening at Leopardstown and kind of went off the boil after, though ran respectably enough in the Irish Derby. Just looking at his hurdling debut, I'd say he's a bit of a messer. He had a proper look around after jumping the last clear. A proper look around. Again, it's something I'd encourage people to go back and watch. And Danny Mullins really had to get serious with him, and he was so weak in the market that day. So all that would add up to me to say that he's going to have a ton of improvement, but you would obviously like to see him again. And then the one I've come down on, the one that I really fancy for this is Course Sublime. Massive fan of this lad. He beat Southern France in his flat maiden, which obviously looks excellent form now. He'll handle most ground. I think Elliot has said he'll run him on anything that isn't an extreme, and I think he has tons of improvement to come. I don't think he's been ridden properly yet. Like, I think if you look back at his race in Fairyhouse, if Brian Cooper had his time again, he'd have made far more use of him. He was just tapped for toe that day, and I think he was coming to win his race at Leopardstown at Christmas as well. For me, a strongly run Triumph on a properly stiff track on decent ground is going to be brilliant conditions for him, and there's as big as 25s in place, and that for me is massive value.
Okay, well, we can't talk about this race really and not mention Cheltenham, because he's 4 out of 5, sort of does his racing very unimpressively, Dave, but he gets the job done and he finds plenty when he needs to.
Again, like Duffy just saw a couple of years ago, he's won the same sort of races. The interesting thing about him, the handicappers race him about 141, but he's yet to run anywhere near that. You do see that when these 3-year-olds go into handicaps, you weigh up the RPR and think, what's all this about? But I mean, Ajali didn't do the form much good, did it? He only just does enough. Yes, I know he's a likeable sort, but I don't know. I've got him down for 4th, I think. Yeah.
Keels, what do you make of Cheltenham? Is he one of those that you sort of think, well, you know where you're at with him and you want to find something at a bigger price? Well, he's quite big a price, but
he's tough.
You know what I mean?
He's tough, he's game, but I don't think he's beaten very much, and he's just not good enough, is he? That's simple as that. He's not going to be good enough. There are going to be better horses than him in it. He's got a mark of 146, and that means he's going to be in the wilderness for a year next year, because he's got no chance of ever winning a handicap off that. Well, he might do if he goes up in trip, but I just can't see it. I just don't think he's all that good. The one I was interested in most was, we've already discussed it, is Carlo Baraggi. I thought his jumping was very good until the last when he wandered around, and that might just be greenness. I mean, come on, he's only had a couple of runs on the flat, hasn't he? So that would be the one that would interest me. But as you would want to see him again. But yeah, no, I'm not interested in Cheltenham. Not interested in Torpillo, who has been absolute rubbish on very bad ground, and he's 3rd fav. I just don't get that at all.
Connections don't seem to think he's any good either.
Well, no, they always thought Ajali was the best, didn't they? I mean, that's why they ran Ajali at Chepstow. Ajali's the better horse. So I mean, he might be a very good horse, but I mean, beating what he's beaten on bottomless ground at Sandown's, nothing like they were going to face at Cheltenham if it's a dry-ish spring.
Yeah.
He didn't turn up, but it was interesting when they reopened that Bouvedere prep at Sandown, that he was actually interested. It was just an interesting. I thought, why run him in that? I don't think he's all that good, but again, like Hills, what's he done? He's absolutely nothing. So you just have to take that on faith, don't you? Loads of holes in a lot of these horses, basically, is what we're saying. Yeah,
there is. Interesting, Kills, that you think it could be quite a strong Triumph. We'll move on now to get you guys' best bets. One winner and one other bet. Dave, I'll go to you first.
I'm not going to take on this fav, I don't think. I think he probably will win. But I can certainly see the Gardens of Babylon. At a stupid price, Fanfan Adesoy for Tom George. Should have won on his last
Nelson
run
River
there. He
beaten,
just went for home way too soon. I thought that was a pretty good effort, and the form before that's looking okay. Again, hard to see him winning it, but I thought he might run into a place.
Okay, very interesting. Darren, over to you next.
Yeah, Course Sublime is going to be my main bet, for all that I do think that Sir Eric could be hard beaten. He's too short for me. And if I was having an each way bet in the race, probably Carlo Baraggi, provided he does come out and run again. Okay,
I'm very interested in him. But Keels, I think I'm with you with Gardens of Babylon. I think there's plenty of improvement there. Just refresh us who your selections are.
Mine would be Gardens of Babylon. I'm interested to see what happens to Carlo Baraggi, but I think Gardens of Babylon is a cracking each way bet.
Okay, so you're sticking with him. We'll move on to the JLT Novices Chase just after this break.
Success ain't earned, it's bought. That's why at Paddy Power, we paid the big bucks for the best tech nerds in the world to develop our new, fastest ever app. Download the new app from the App Store or Play Store now. 18+, begambleaware.org.
Okay, welcome back to this Cheltenham ante-postcast. Moving on to the JLT Novices Chase now. A race that's got a bit of stick in the last couple of years, Dave, but it's the Ryanair, but for novices.
Yeah, we were crying out for this sort of race, a decade ago or whatever, and ever since it's actually turned up, once again it's labelled as a race that horses are stuck between trips, if you like. And it's a case of who turns up every year. It's usually always an open race and an open market until the week before at least. Again, we're getting some shape now with it, I think, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. Defi Desoy on the screen behind us. I think he's favourite currently. Darren, just give us a rundown of the prices.
You're dead right, he is indeed, yeah. So he's our 3-1 favourite in what is an actually fairly open race. Top of the game is 4-1 second fav. Lost in Translation is 9-2. La Bagawa is 6-1. Kalashnikov is 7s. Larichberg is 7s. Delta Work is 8s. Real Steel is 10s, and we are 12s bar.
Interesting, at the top of the game, he's 4-1 there. I thought he might go for the RSA, but maybe not if he's pretty strong in that market.
No bet, Maddie. No, that's the only thing.
Yeah, okay. Let's start off with Defi Desoy then. Lost in Translation, beat him in the Dipper, but then he got his revenge last time in the Scilly Isles. I've just wrote a weekender column on how I think that form is pretty good. I think he's quite fast, Defi Desoy, though, as he proved when winning the Triumph. Philip Hobbs has done a great job with him, and I think he'd have a good chance in an Arkle or something like that. But obviously he's proven over this trip now, Dave.
He's a tough little bugger, isn't he? That's for sure. His Triumph when it's actually worked out okay, not too bad. I wasn't sure how it was at the time. You have to go back to that 5th of 5 when he ran behind Laylor at the November meet. He jumped terribly. And then came out in that freaky Exeter race and looked okay, didn't he? I actually backed him for the Arkle, as I've said before, on these postcards, after he got beaten in the Dipper. Dipper's a race where beaten horses can often run well at Cheltenham, if not win. And obviously I was a bit disappointed to see him out on really bad, tacky ground over the 2 mile 4. That Scilly Isles, if you look down at the roster, of previous winners, nearly every single one of them goes for the JLT, and you'd be amazed after Larichberg came out and did what he did in the Irish Arkle if that wasn't the case of him to turn up in the JLT. I think Philip Hobbs in a TV interview last week said as much as well. So listen, I like him a lot. I think he's really hard to knock. What sort of price would he be? That would be the key. But I might try and recoup losses, I suppose. Okay,
Keels, Defi Desoy, what do you make of him?
Yeah, I like him. Yeah, I mean, he's obviously, he's already won a Triumph Hurdle. He's won several times at Cheltenham, and you ignore that first run at Cheltenham over 2 mile, and he's done well. I'm underwhelmed overall by the overall quality of the horses that are likely to run in this race, and that includes the front 2, though. If you have a look at what's been winning the JLT, even if you kick out Votor, who obviously ran to 175 when he won it, the average, ignoring Votor, would be about 163, and look, I mean, Defi Desoy gets 156 for both Sandown and Cheltenham, and Lost in Translation gets 155. They do not set an outstanding standard to be so short in the betting compared to all the others that are likely to run. Now, I'm sure we're going to talk about this, but if you take a long look at the betting in the race, every other horse that is actually likely to run in the race is 20-1 or bigger. It isn't going to be like that on the day, even if Defi Desoy and Lost in Translation both get there. So for me, I think you got to be looking at bigger prices. Now, the interesting thing about Defi Desoy is obviously, and Lost in Translation, is they are incredibly closely matched, because Defi Desoy has got beat by Lost in Translation at Cheltenham, giving him £3, and then has beaten him 3/4 of a length at Sandown. Now, I think Defi Desoy would probably win again, because at Sandown, Barry Goethe did the right thing and he waited until after the last, whereas at Cheltenham he was in front 2 out, and I think he wants to be waited with. But overall, I don't think that form is a great deal better than quite a few others in the race who are 4 or 5 times the price and bigger.
Okay, that's very interesting. Darren, Defi Desoy, does he strike you as the winner of this race?
No, don't like him. I've never taken to him. As far as I'm concerned, the only juvenile hurdler worth his salt in open company over the last 10 years is probably Our Connor, and he ended up unfortunately dying obviously at Cheltenham. But for me, Defi Desoy, I'm just not a fan. Like, he's won 2 small field chases where they've absolutely crawled around and he's just sort of tapped them for toe at the end. They haven't gone a proper pace and put his jumping to the test. The one race where they did was at Cheltenham when he was beaten out of sight. Now, look, fair enough, there was probably other excuses that day, but for me, no, he's the wrong favourite, but like that form at Lost in Translation, I think, as Paul alluded to, is just not strong, and it's more than enough for me to want to take on the front 2 very, very strongly. No, definitely not for me.
Okay, well, we've mainly touched on Defi Desoy. Let's give Lost in Translation another mention. Form behind La Bagawa, who went on to win at the Dublin Racing Festival, and obviously sort of outdid Defi Desoy in the latter stages of the Dipper, Dave. He jumps really well since he sort of belted one at Newbury. I'm a big fan of the horse. It seems like everyone's very negative on him, but I think Richard Johnson would have been kicking himself at Sandown if he would have gone a little bit faster. And just, again, I think he's potentially, you know, a 3-miler. Colin Tizard loves him. I think he could have beaten Defi Desoy again.
He was coming back at the finish, wasn't he? So you have to think that returning to Cheltenham is going to be, you know, his bag. Yeah, that Le Bagoir form, she doesn't look like she's going to turn up. Just we wouldn't totally rule that out. But is the form good enough? Like Kiel says, I agree. Probably not. His Aintree Novice Hurdle hasn't really worked out.
Black Op winning. No.
Black Up Mamela in third, and you know, she's had a terrible season, even though she's probably not been right. I don't really know where that came up from. He was 40-1 in the Supreme last year, wasn't he? Seventh, I think he was, something like that.
That's
so I know he's a really likeable horse, and he's been waiting to jump fences and stuff. But again, like Darren with Defi, I've never really been with him.
Okay. You're pouring cold water on my hopes there. Kiel's, anything to add about Lost in Translation? I know you're not massively keen on his form, but
I mean, I like him as a horse. I mean, I think he probably wants a really aggressive ride because I think he does want. I think he does want further. But it's just, you know, when you've got two, the whole market is hanging on this one line of form between two horses. When there is nothing between the two of them, and you know what they say, when you know, if horses keep running right next to each other, both of them can't be superstars, can they?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And this is the point. We've got a market where you've got two horses that are in single figure odds, and the only two, and it's 20-1 bar, and they're not actually that good. And it's 20-1 bar when you go looking at all the other horses that are likely to run. You are crazy if you are not having a serious look at this race and getting stuck in each way.
Yeah, for sure. But we have seen Defi Desoy and Lost in Translation. They've been out there and they've been doing stuff.
We've seen plenty of others, but people are not paying any attention to him. That's the problem.
Okay. Let's go down some of the runners then. Le Richebourg obviously going to go in the Arkle, top of the game. Like I said, at the top of the shop, interesting that he's so short, considering that he's likely to go for the RSA. We're going to see him in the
Racing Post that he goes in the RSA. You know, so I mean, he's one of those that's not even worth discussing.
Exactly.
Many of these.
If it was a bog though, would they change their mind with that? I mean, it was a cold cup, wasn't it?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Anyway, so he might run in the Reynoldstown on Saturday against Santini.
According to Nichols, sorry, straight there.
Really?
Yeah, last week, I'm pretty sure I read.
Okay.
I bumped back that with them. I'm pretty sure I read that he said he was going to go straight there. They'd changed their minds.
Kiels, you're all over me today. But anyway, we'll keep going down. Kalashnikov won't run. He's going to go in the Arkle probably. Le Bagoir unlikely to run. Delta Work is one for the RSA. That leaves us with Real Steel, Darren. What do you make of him? Obviously not the best hurdler, but he looks like he could be a bit better over fences.
Yeah, it just looks to be one of these that's improved a ton for going chasing. As you say yourself, wouldn't have blown anybody away as a novice hurdler, and I think he's been a small bit unlucky as well. Like he probably had the beaten of Paloma Blue in his chasing debut at Leopardstown over 2 miles, and further is probably going to end up suiting him. My issue with him is his jumping is really weird. Like, maybe it's just me now. Like, he seems to jump okay, but just the shape he makes this fence is like, he looks uncomfortable. He looks like he's distressed or something jumping over them. Now, clearly he's not, and Paul and Willie were happy enough for him after the last day, but as I said, it's just the shape that he makes. I don't know, but in a market where, you know, as Paul alluded to there, the top of the market is not strong. Like, for a bit of context, Defi Desoy in Lost in Translation finished about 7 lengths in front of Black Op. Black Op was deemed to have been such a disaster over fences he had to go back, stay in hurdling. If you're only 7 lengths better than a horse who was deemed a disaster over chasing, you should not be favoured for a Grade 1 at Cheltenham. For me, the value is way further down, and it definitely begins at Real Steel. Okay, it begins with Real Steel. Again, going down, Dynamite Dollar's likely to go for the Arkle. Paloma Blue, maybe the same thing. Keel's right. Who is going to run, do we think, and who is the value in this race?
Right, okay. 2 horses. They ran in the Novice Handicap Chase on Trials Day, a race that I think has produced more winners at the Cheltenham Festival than any other Trials Day race in the last decade. Kildesart won it.
Yep.
And that was the first time he'd ever shown any form on a left-handed track over fences. He didn't jump. He belted a couple of fences fairly hard, including the second last, but it didn't stop his momentum at all. And he powered up the hill to win by 2 lengths. That was off a mark of 141. Ben Pauling said, hopefully he won't go up more than £4 because he still wanted to run in the handicap. But he's gone up 6, which means he can't run in the novice handicap. He's gone up to a mark of 147. We've given him a Racing Post rating of 154. That is £2 shy of Defi Desoy, and he is 20-1 in places. That that is a stupid price for a young horse who is improving and has improved with virtually every single run he's ever run in his life, apart from that one blowout straight into Grade 1 company last year. That's a daft price. And third place, Spirit of the Games, is 66 to 1 in the place. He was only beaten 2.5 lengths. He's also rated 147. He also got an RPR of 154. £2 below the 3 to 1 favourite in the race and a 66 to 1 shot. What is going on? He was 5th in the county hurdle as well last year. He handles Cheltenham perfectly fine. He's run 2 very, very good races over fences and 1 blowout. I mean, he was only 8 lengths behind Le Bagarra when he didn't run his race. Not Le Bagarra, Lost in Translation, when he didn't run his race at Newbury, giving him weight in between his 2 good runs. I mean, for me, those 2 horses just have to be backed each way. Can't see him running elsewhere. You could run him in the plate, I suppose, but why would you run in a race for less money against more experienced horses in a field likely to be twice the size? I mean, it just doesn't make sense. So I think they should both run there, and they're not far off the so-called form horses at the head of the market.
Yeah, some of these are going to have options in the handicaps. Dave, who brings into it? Who do you like? Who it brings into? Sorry.
Well, Drover's Lane is of that ilk actually. Who also won over the course and distance. He was pretty impressive when he did that. And whether that form merits the Racing Post rating that we gave him, which was 154, exactly the same as Kildesart. But again, he's got loads of experience. I probably haven't seen the best of him yet. He's 3 from 4 over fences. Rebecca Curtis cannot, she does occasionally have these sort of horses. 25 to 1 I thought was big for him as a definite frame player. Champagne Classic is interesting, isn't he?
Yes, former festival winner, of course.
Yeah, and a Grade 1 at that afterwards at the Punchestown, wasn't it?
Yeah.
When Michael O'Leary came and said this is the worst horse we've ever trained.
Yes.
Interestingly enough. He ran really well on his belated comeback. You want to see another run. Whether that's going to be possible, I don't know. But again,
he's a good horse. He's a good horse. I like him.
On ability.
Darren, Prava Laguna ran at the weekend as well, and you think she could be in with a shout here?
Yeah, I really liked it, and she ran at Naas, and she beat Bay de Zile, fair enough, getting a lot of weight, and Bay de Zile is not a 2-mile horse by any manner of means, but she jumped really, really well. I didn't see any issues, bar she made one mistake and Paul lost his iron, but he got it back reasonably quickly, and after that she pinged them all, and she showed a lovely turn of foot as well. Like, turning for home, they kind of got within 2 lengths of her. Now Paul was motionless, and once he put the foot down, she scooted away from them really nicely. They claimed she'd be better over 2.5 miles, and to be honest with you, I think if she kind of popped herself out in front in this race and said, right, come and get me, and started getting into a rhythm jumping, take a good horse to go and get her now, especially getting the bit of weight.
Okay, that's really, really interesting. Now, we've discussed lots of horses, and I think it's fairly obvious who we're keen on, but let's just clarify the best bets. Dave?
I don't think he's an attractive price at all, but I think the race will definitely be run at a hammer and tong gallop, and Defi Desoy will be much suited by that.
Okay.
I can't have him out the frame. I do think that Real Steel has got the ability to run well. They'd be the 2 I'd be expecting to be near enough. Okay,
Keels and Kildesart and Spirit of the Game is going to be involved in your selections.
That's it, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I might even throw in a couple of others at big prices. I think it's a race. It's a race you've got to have a go at. Did like Prava Laguna the other day as well, but no, I'll stick with those 2. I think Spirit of the Game is one of the craziest prices I've ever seen.
Okay, we have got time, so if you want to mention a couple of others, even if it's just quickly, who would they be?
Who would they be? Well, obviously, Mr. Whipped. I think Mr. Whipped probably needs soft ground. He's not. I can't imagine him going anywhere else, to be honest. That's the thing. Okay. I don't think he stayed 3 mile last year. He's obviously got talent. He got a 152 for beating Springtown Lake at Haydock probably more easily than it looked at the time. He's probably still.
His attitude there.
Probably, yeah, well, a little bit. Yeah.
Brilliant timing.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? Yeah, is that what you think about him? Is it?
Deary me.
And there was one other. I mean, a hard line of Gordon Elliott's. If he was to run in there, he would be of reasonable interest, and he's run well. I don't think he was that disgraced beyond La Bagarra last time, and he's run some solid races at 2 mile and 2 mile 3 furlong. But no, just in terms of 2 horses that are going forward and seems to have been completely missed, Kildesart and Spirit of the Games for me.
Okay, Keels is going for all the big price winners, so no doubt you'll probably hit the target with one of them. Darren?
Rage, and you went to Keels first. Yeah, I'd Mr. Whip down here as well. Massive fan of him. I thought, unlike Paul, I actually thought he probably would get 3 miles on better ground maybe. But no, definitely interesting at a massive price. I think we've him in the 33s, I think, and there's probably bigger elsewhere. The two, I suppose, that we've already touched on. Real Steel would be my main fancy in this, and then there's another horse, and we all know him, Kalashnikov. I would love him to run here. Absolutely.
He's not going to, though, is
I
he?
I know, but if Amy Murphy listens to this,
I think he's a stayer.
yeah. Amy Murphy, if you're
3
listening to
votes
this,
for him,
please send him to the
Staying.
JLT. I think
Okay.
he'd win this with his head in his chest. Like, he's far and away the classiest horse.
There's nothing wrong with his attitude. Come on.
Come on, Keels' dog clearly doesn't know what he's talking about. Right, anyway, on that note, we've come to the end of the show, so thanks for watching and listening to us. Don't forget we have our regular racing postcasts. We recorded that yesterday. We looked at the weekend's action in Ireland, and hopefully, equine flu permitting, on Friday, Bruce will be back to do the tipping postcast as usual with action from Ascot and Haydock as well. So we'll see you then.
Follow Paddy Power on Snapchat. The username is ThePaddyPower, and we promise there won't be any boring snaps about gigs, the weather, or the gym.